Hello everybody, this is the second take on this video. The last video had the cat like in the litter box scraping and it just didn't sound right, so I'm going to redo it. Content will be probably a little better rehearsed. Today is the 15th of June. We're halfway through June 2017. The year is like half over. It's like the middle of June, right? We're 6 months away from Christmas, believe it or not. But today is just going to be kind of 3 or 4 topics of no consequence or order. The first of them is sticky balls. Have you ever sat down in a chair, a leather chair, a pleather chair, a genuine Naugahyde chair, and as you sit down, without you knowing it, your panties go one way, your skirt goes the other way, and you find yourself sitting on top of your scrotum with a sack out. And you can sit there as you're talking to someone, or if you're in a meeting. It happens to me at work sometimes, and I'm like sitting there going, okay, move to the left, move to the right. This is kind of uncomfortable, and it looks like, you're farting or something, but I just thought it was funny. It's like sticky balls, and it's probably something that only we experience. And I guess if we're inclined to get rid of our little testicles, that one day we won't have them. But I thought that was funny. I was like, boy, I bet you other girls can identify with that. A brief bit of good news, for me at least. I did find a surgeon who had a higher BMI cutoff limit. There's no guarantee that the doctor will do it, but at least it's nice to know that it's like having a free pass for 30 pounds. And when I started to lose weight, as you might expect, the initial set was pretty easy, pretty easy to start. And then, after 50 or 60 pounds, it gets to be a little bit, okay, I'm crawling along. So, up until about an hour ago, my only option was, 220 pounds. And now my option is 258 pounds. Now that the surgeon still wants to do a physical exam to determine your body mass and whatever, and so that's awesome to me. But it also tells me the positive that I look at it is, number one, it's plan B. Number two, it's a little bit of incentive. It's a little bit closer to me. Excuse me a minute. Guess what I'm doing? Aha. And so, again, kind of good news in a way. And we'll see. It's just, it's one of those things. It's like, can't think of what it's like. It's like finding out that a course you have to take is an elective. How about that? For your college-bound folks, college-bitten folks. Probably the results would be better, if I was 30 pounds lighter. But it's one of those things. I mean, you just have to be realistic. It's like holding your breath. Anyway, so that's kind of good news. The other thing is kind of a two-parter, and I lately feel like I've kind of lost a bit of my purpose. My purpose really had been losing weight, transitioned, did my thing at work, living full time, and then it's like, now what? And surgery is kind of my last milestone. It's my last achievement. I can't think of anything else I want to do other than have surgery and hopefully have a lot of sex. But and not sit on my scrotum, obviously, when I sit down. But it's one of those things. I feel a little loss of purpose, like I don't necessarily have a purpose anymore. And not to say you have to have a purpose to live. I definitely still have my daughter, who I love, and I will definitely see her through the rest of her adolescence and young adulthood and everything. So I still have things to do, but I've just kind of lost that drive. And that was the exciting thing about playing in the Louisville board game the other night, was it was like, ooh, cool. Get to do something that I kind of enjoy doing, and I get to enter it as Robin myself, and people only know me as Robin. Although I think I mentioned in my video that I knew the owner and whatnot, and I'll be honest, the owner's hot. I mean, I'm attracted to the owner on a purely physical level. I'd love to get to know him so I could get to know him, if just to get his brain and his personality and whatnot. So a retailer is not, a retailer is your best friend as long as you have money in your pocket. So I'm curious to find that out. So, and that was kind of always a concern about mine before, is, once you do everything you want to do, then what do? You find other things. And I haven't found that yet. The last thing is kind of big thing, and I can't quite go into the details. I had a bit of an explosive night at my last group meeting, and we all kind of agreed that, what happens in the group meeting stays in the group meeting, so I'm not going to disclose any details or whatnot, any people, etc., etc. But I found myself getting very grumpy old person, grumpy old man kind of. I found myself as kind of becoming the grandmother in the room, and that doesn't mean that I am wise or I know what I'm doing or whatnot. Maybe I've touched the burner a couple times and I can say, please watch out, that burner's hot, but I just found myself getting somewhat tired of hearing the same story. Does that make any sense? And I definitely want to help, and want to help people who are, depending on how you feel about it, either before me on the path or after me on the path. We're all chugging along at our own pace, but maybe that's why older trans women kind of disappear. Maybe that's why they leave the support groups, because they get kind of tired of hearing the same thing over and over again. I don't know. But I don't want to tick anybody off or whatnot. I can hear the ice cream truck. Can you hear the ice cream truck? But again, I found myself just kind of sitting there going, oh my gosh, I'm becoming the old trans woman. I'm becoming the older trans woman who, has kind of done some things, but you're really not that. You want to know what they want to say so you don't make the same mistake that they do, but you want to say, oh, so-and-so's kind of old. Maybe that's the way it was when she was younger, but it's not the way it is now. And I feel like I'm becoming that older person. And again, not to say I know anymore, or I'm wiser or intelligent or whatnot, but it's one of those things. I found myself, I'm like, what am I doing here? And is it one of those age and stage things? I don't know. I don't think so. But, it's one of those things that I feel, to a degree, it's the responsibility of someone who is going through the process to learn from someone else who's been you before you, and then you pass that knowledge on if someone's interested in. But you don't nag them about it. You don't, it's just one of the things you listen and, oh, that's interesting. Had you thought about this? Well, how do you feel about that? Again, not trying to persuade you in any way, shape, or form, but maybe as a way of helping out, but also listening to someone else who is ahead of you in the process. For me, it'd be surgeons and, dating. How did you, your first sexual encounter after you had your surgery? Things that are applicable that I am new to and curious about. But again, I found myself last night feeling like, I've become the old person in the room now. My gray hair aside, I've become the old person. And, until someone else who's older than me shows up, then I'm like the middle person. Um, so again, I don't like that role to a degree. I don't like, I in the past there have been some I'm going to say trans elders. There have been some elders who were like crickety crockety, bitchy women. And, you know, that's not the way that I see myself. And so knowing that, I can avoid that. But it's one of those things. I mean, everyone, your experience is your own. And I think that's all that's really going on. I'll end it on a kind of positive note. I went to see my medical doctor. Golly, it's not a psychologist. Maybe it is. They can write the meds. And it was really kind of cool because I hadn't seen her for 3 or 4 months. And she called me back and she said to me, she said, "I'm so proud of you," and then she said, "Your voice is changing." And I was like, "No, I don't think so." And she said, "No," she said, "You're talking differently." And it's one of the things you always hear about, hormones don't change your voice. But I'm wondering if maybe who's to say there isn't some little change in your voice, or who's to say you don't begin to choose your words, or who's to say, I mean, subconsciously, not a conscious effort. You definitely can, if you take a moment and think about what you want to say, and it sounds like you're thinking a little more, and you're more interested in listening, and you're change your inflection so that and you can take it up a notch too and begin to talk a little bit higher. And wow, that's a very fascinating story, and I'm very interested in what you have to say. Would you say you're a better person or a worse, or and all this other thing? And again, that's a conscientious decision to do that. But it's, I don't know, it's one of those things. There was a long period of time where I thought that, maybe I could talk like this all the time. And it is a bit of a shock to someone who knows you. And it just makes me wonder if maybe there's a middle ground. Oh, see, hear my voice drop. Maybe that resonates. This resonates. But maybe there is a middle ground. Hey, raise the roof. Woo! Maybe there is a middle ground between the two. I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about my game store owner, who I'm just over the moon about. And in my own fantasy, not sexual fantasy, but in my own fantasy mind, I'm thinking about, would he accept me, and to crash, to pop that bubble, the date that I had lined up on Plenty of Fish, he left me. He didn't know me. But, we communicated. It sounded really good and everything. And then I noticed today when I logged in, excuse me, picking my ear. When I logged in today, all of our conversation, he deleted the whole thing. So, and that's good. If he's not interested, he's not interested. I don't want to leave that on. But it's one of those things. It's like, oh, I've had my first rejection, and I have a feeling there's going to be many, many more. So really, that's just about it. Kind of a potpourri of stuff. And, my blog here it's not always happy. It's not always sad. It's just the way things are in my life at this stage. And, I don't know. I don't have the answers, my friends. I really don't. I can only tell you where I'm at, and hopefully I'll watch the video back and learn where I was. Maybe it'll help me in the future. So, All right, well, I am out of time. So until next time, goodbye. Good luck.